Good evening or good morning, depending on where you are. Well, for me, it's True Crime Tuesday. Oh, I'm sorry, Shu, your keyboard's acting up. I totally can relate to that, as you can see. But welcome, everyone. Uh, the beginning of the week for True Crime. And today, well, I thought we would talk about a case that is coming up to trial very soon. The same date as Sarah Boone, actually. Uh, the defendant, his name is Adam Fravel, and he was the father of the children of missing and then found deceased Madeline Kingsbury. Now, this is a case that we haven't talked about in many months. I did link a playlist for you below for those of you that want to see the coverage that we had prior or on it. I am going to give you it's been quite a few months, so I thought the first thing I would do is talk about the previous stuff before we get to the new stuff. Okay. Um, Basically, this case it's out of Winona County in Minnesota. And Madeline Kingsbury is a 26-year-old Mayo Clinic research assistant, and she has two small children. And on March 31st in 2023, she dropped her two young children off at daycare with the father of her children, Adam Fravel, and, well, she was never seen again. Now, they lived together in a home. Maddie was commonly known as Maddie instead of Madeline. I will refer to her as Maddie with respect for who she was. She was well known and well liked. She had many friends from her college days in the area. She was very popular. When she was reported missing, it was noticed right away because she talked to family members and friends daily. It was part of her routine. And also through work, she became missing right away, and it was suspicious based on other text messages and things that I will talk to you about. Basically, it come to light through interviews with her family and friends that Maddie was in a contentious relationship with Adam Fravel, that it was coming to an end that March. She was planning on getting an apartment of her own. Um, Her children were young. During the whole relationship, she had made many comments to friends and family in regards to him not helping, not working, playing video games, that things were tough. And the reason I mention that is because as we discuss what's going on now with the case, it becomes quite the bone of contention between the state and the defense, and it's actually going to be up to the judge right before October 7th. And basically, there was a wide search done. Many volunteers from Winona County were there, friends, family, people. They searched for her with no success in the beginning days. It was the discovery of her body was through investigation in regards to many camera feeds that they got from local businesses in neighborhoods following the van that they believe was driven by Adam Fravel after March 31st. Oh, they followed the route that the van took. And the one investigator who had done a search at the home previously was the one who was following the route from these images captured by cameras along the way, and decided to retravel the route to see if they could find anything. And this is when the body was discovered. It was also noted that the body was discovered just minutes from Fravel family owned property. Um, and I mention that because one of the odd things about this case, and there are quite a few odd things, speculative because they are not able to be put into evidence. One would be that the Fravel family, Adam Fravel's family, I believe it was his father, at first gave 4 USBs of actual camera footage because everything was all from his property, uh, 4 USBs worth. But by the time the investigators got them back and were ready to load them, they had contacted them and rescinded permission to use them in any way. So they weren't able to see if Adam approached the property or when he visited, to see if they could match it up to anything that he had stated. This was curious to them, but then again, it became clear that he may be a suspect since they did interview him 2 days in a row on April 1st and April 2nd. And when I mean him, I mean Adam Fravel. So, of course, he was talking with his family, and of course, everybody just started to, what do they call that? Circle the wagons. That doesn't mean he's guilty. That just means that they didn't want to help in any way, in case anything was found. They didn't want anything to be used against him. They have been outspoken, the family, and insisting there's two sides to every story. Okay. Adam Fravel wasn't even worried that she was missing and tried to deter people from even questioning it right away. And there's testimony and text messages back and forth that were revealed in multiple hearings that we've had in regards to this case. Now, the other thing that was Adam immediately filed for custody of the two children who were 2 and 5 at the time. But the Winona County judge denied the petition as he was the main suspect in the case and ordered that the children stay with the maternal grandparents who immediately had picked up the children and had been caring for them since the beginning of April. Maddie was very close with her father and her stepmother and her biological mother. It is her father and her stepmother who have custody of the children to this date. And he, even while waiting trial and all, can only have authorized visitation. Um, uh, Both, I would like to note that the grandparents, David and Kathy Kingsbury, actually both left their jobs to take care of these children. Um, and I find that commendable. Well, anyway, the date that they found the remains was June 7th, and this is a week after her disappearance. They were confirmed to be Madeline's on June 8th, but what was noted by the investigator who discovered the remains is that the sheet she was wrapped in and the tape that was used, I believe they said it was gorilla tape, black gorilla tape, because it was the same investigator who had done a search of the house previously. He noted that it was the same type sheet and gorilla tape that they had found in the house before, and that one of the air mattresses that the children normally were napping and sleeping was missing a sheet at the time, and that it had pillows on it with the same color type sheet that she was found wrapped in. This immediately led them to believe that Adam was intrinsically involved in her demise, and he was arrested immediately. Now, he was originally only charged with second degree murder. And as the state prosecutor at the time had said, the reason they did that is because Minnesota law, it did cause quite an outrage in the county. I mean, people were very upset when it was only second degree, because people had some knowledge of what was going on, and she was so well loved, and they just didn't understand. So there was a press conference done, and the state prosecutor explained that without a grand jury and evidence being presented, they could not go to first degree murder. That's Minnesota law. So at first, he was only charged with first degree. I mean, with second degree murder, 2 counts. Okay. Um, there was an omnibus hearing. There was a lot of motions in regards to change of menu, but we're gonna get all to that too. Let me just check the chat for some questions first before I start bringing up the presentation of what's going on now. Well, basically, he was the one and only suspect. Okay. Um. Oh, hello there, Rocky Couch. Hello, Juju. Purple, Deep State Annex. So good to see you. Hey, Liam. It's nice to see you too. Okay. Um. I hate that people can just disappear. Exactly. Oh, in this case, though, as soon as she disappeared, the last text message she sent was right after she dropped her children off, and that was routine for her. She always messaged her sister, and it was at 8:15, and then nobody heard from her after. And she had quite the routine of keeping in touch with people on a regular basis. She had many friends still from college that she talked to regularly. She talked to her mother or her regularly, her stepmother. It was yeah. Mm. It was noted right away. Always buy pattern sheet. That is what I'm hearing. Well, it was a gray solid sheet, but they did match it up quite fastly. What was good about this is that it was the same investigator right away, so it kind of sped things up. I should make note that other things that led to them knowing that foul play was amiss is that when they did the search of the home, of course they found the laptop she works with, her keys, her purse, her personal items. She didn't take anything with her. She was just missing. And all of her things that she would take with her, normally her purse, her keys, her cell phone, were in the home. So Adam Fravel became an immediate suspect. Other things that led suspicious was him saying that, well, he just thought like they took the children together and that he thought she was going to go to work and she went to her office. Well, she never took her van. And then he was driving her van. Okay. And then he said, well, I just thought maybe she'd take my car because I needed it to move some things. These are the conversations he had with them the day after. But they were quite suspicious, especially after they got some footage from the neighborhood that showed him changing the license plate on the van. When I say speculative, I'm saying it's going to depend on what they actually present in the trial. And by the way, this trial is October 7th. Same day as Sarah Boone, but no cameras. Okay. But let me tell you what else, the reason I say speculative before we get into the actual facts of what's been going on lately. One of the other things of note was that many of the conversations that Madeline had with her friends and her family was that she was always watched because her whole house was full of cameras, that Adam actually checked her phone regularly and kept a good surveillance on the house, which was fine because that's not unusual. You have small children. Not unusual, okay? What's unusual is the day after the disappearance, when the officers actually searched the home, there were no cameras. Not a one anywhere. And there was recent evidence at a high where you would put cameras that new plaster had been pulled as if they had been removed. It was also noted that there were, when he was asked for video surveillance for the house, none was presented. He said there wasn't any. And the account for that surveillance program was deleted, they found out later, completely, so that not even the company could go back and get the footage. Now, we're drawing a line here, but that just looked sauce AF. Now, it doesn't mean he murdered anyone, but it does mean that things were going on in the house he didn't want anyone to see. Now, prior hearings have had things eliminated like drug use. There is some speculation back and forth that marijuana may have been used in the home, and with it not being an illegal substance, like they didn't want to get into that between the defense and the state. They both agreed like it wasn't used, although the defense wants to use prescription medication because they think that that could have contributed to Madeline's demise. Okay. So that went back and forth for a while prior to recent hearings. An omnibus hearing was done in regards to a lot of the evidence and a lot actually this defense attorney, Zachary Bauer, who is the defense attorney that will be presenting the defense for Adam Fravel starting October 7th. I have to say, he is definitely earning every single penny that he is being paid. Um, the motions are astounding. Um, and that's why I put a small trigger warning about the sensitivity of the subject, because this case is not just murder. It involves long-term a claim, alleged claim of long-term domestic abuse. And this is a subject that the reason I a friend brought me this case because it was very personal to them. And then when I actually looked into it, it became very personal to me based on victim advocacy and how the law handles situations like this and how evidence gets presented in regards to abuse, both mental and physical, and relationships between couples and people that know each other in regards to crimes that are committed later. Or this one in particular is going to be for me one to take note in regards to how things change, and that'll become more evident as I get farther in. Well, basically, right now, I just want to say that there was the omnibus hearing, and some things were tossed out. However, a lot wasn't. um, there was going to be there's a lot of arguing back and forth in regards to testimony of family and friends, and in regards to talking about her relationship. Actually, what's going to be on trial here in regard, like what's up for motion right now, is the use of Madeline's own words to others and whether or not it's hearsay. There are in many states, um, there is actual exceptions to the hearsay rule that says when it is in regards to abuse or speaking of like that, the victim's words can be used, and you don't have to actually witness everything to actually talk about state of mind, as we know, or frame of mind, or the current the relationship that we were in, as far as motive. Okay. So it gets a bit contentious. Okay. But we're going to have to talk about certain things that happened that may be upsetting to others. So I expect you all to take care of yourself. If it starts to get uncomfortable for you, please do what's best for you. I take no offense, but here I use the real language and we'll use the real words and we will talk about exactly what they write and say. I think that's important. Okay, but I'm not trying to upset anybody. I do expect that if you do start to feel uncomfortable with any of it, I take no offense if you need to bow out. Okay. Hey, Mrs. Cassandra, Teresa, Sean, thank you so much for being here. Exactly. That's smart. Use what's in the house that matches items you leave behind. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Exactly. So many inconsistencies. Yes, very many inconsistencies in his statements, which made him more of a suspect as it went along. I agree, Liam, that there's a lot going on here. Um, all right, so I'm just going to start with the presentation then, and please ask questions as we go because I know we haven't talked about this particular case in quite some time. So I will keep the chat up so that I can see. Definitely. Okay. I'm going to add this to the stick. And here we go. Okay. Now, of course, we just went over this. He was arrested 2 days later and charged with first and second degree murder in connection with her death. Okay. This is Adam Fravel. His trial will be October 7th. They expect it to be a week of jury selection, and that is because of the publicity and the need to really vet the jury ahead of time. They are definitely going to have to spend some time, and both the state and the defense are on board with making sure they get a non-prejudicial jury. There are concerns about that. Recently, that has come to light. Okay, but I want to talk about the charges first because there was so much going on. The charges are laid out in first and second degree. Okay, and the actual state went ahead and add the aggravating factor to make a second charge of first degree while committing domestic abuse and past pattern of domestic abuse. Now that is the murder charge. Okay, and lately there's been a lot of contention about that with the defense as far as how they're going to prove that. They're doing everything they can to actually remove all past patterns of domestic abuse that they can. Um, there is evidence of it that they cannot get out. They've got eyewitnesses and they've got the testimony of the victim, Madeline herself, to someone. Okay. And they also have eyewitness accounts through FaceTime, but mostly the defense is complaining because she spoke so much and told everyone like little parts of what was going on. And the state wants to bring all of these people forward, that they're saying that's prejudicial. It's like overkill. It paints him as such a bad guy because she talked about it so much, to the point that they actually even want to eliminate the expert witness who says that that's normal, even though she did not leave him or press any charges about the abuse with him. While she was going through the process of worrying about him being the father of her children and not wanting to ruin their lives or their reputation with their father, but knowing this wasn't a good situation for her and how it felt to her, she kept trying. She would, several times her friends wanted to say, like, I'm gonna call the police. I'm going to press charge. Like, we should file a complaint. And she would ask them not to. That she was dealing with it. She was going to get therapy. She was getting ready. She wasn't ready yet. Several times she had said. Well, because of all these conversations and these interviews with family and friends after the discovery of the body, they did do a grand jury presentation with all of this, and they did get there was enough evidence there. The grand jury determined that he could be charged with first degree. And the state went forward with the aggravating factors of adding that it was committed domestic abuse in partner during partner abuse. So that it's extenuating circumstances for sentencing. Okay. They're also stating, because of certain situations, that it was premeditated. In those certain circumstances that they're claiming premeditation include that the day before his cloud was scrubbed, all text messages, all tracking devices on his phone, social media, everything gone. Like just so that his whereabouts and what he was up to could not be tracked. Okay, the removal of the cameras in the yeah. Okay, they're saying premeditated based on threats that he made, whether he says they were joking or not. Based on the fact that he went so far as to remove all tracking devices. Um, they're saying, well, what is it he was trying to hide? Is that coincidental? I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, coincidental? No, I think very sus, especially, you know, she had been talking to her friends about him just standing there staring at her, leaning at her a lot recently, ever since she told him that she was looking for an apartment to move out. Their relationship had been over as far as a one-on-one committed relationship, intimate relationship between the two of them was over. But they still lived together for the children temporarily while she looked for a new home. She said she could not leave the home and leave him to pay for it on the lease. It would ruin it was in her name, and she knew he would not pay. He did not have a job. He played video games all day. These are her words to her friends. Uh, and he would not support the house. So she was afraid, like she worked very hard. Her credit was good. She was getting a new apartment. She didn't want to mess anything up. She had all these things, financial issues in her head, as long as and the relationship with the children. The deciding factor for her to leave him was that he was now doing some stuff in front of the oldest daughter, who was 6, who could actually acknowledge that something was not right. And this was very disturbing to her, and one of the deciding factors for her to leave. And she'd been talking about leaving since late December, early January, and that she wasn't in a committed relationship with the father of the children anymore, Adam Fravel, the defendant, because she was actually in a relationship with someone else that she had a friendship with, that she had seen back in 2021. They stopped seeing each other, and then she started again. She had many breaks with her relationship with Adam Fravel, although always they were like together and not together. One would move out, he would move to his parents for a little while and then come back. They were on again, off again the whole time. While from the times that they were together, there was many periods of time where they were during breakups, and apparently during one of these times where they were not broken up She started to see someone else, then broke it off, went back with Adam Fravel, both in the beginning of 2023 when she disappeared. She had been determined that the relationship with Adam Fravel was no more, that she would always allow him to hear the children. She wanted to co-parent. She wanted to do everything um, copacetically as she could, but she knew it just wasn't for her. Or she knew that she deserved better, and she was moving on. And she made these conversations here and there. Her friends were encouraging her. Her family was encouraging her, but she was going slow. She was moving it slow. During some testimony that recently happened, I'm learning that that's pretty common. But anyway, just to explain why both sets of charges are there for the first degree and the second degree. In my opinion, this is going to allow the jury, based on the evidence that comes through, a lot of leeway if they think he did it, but they're not sure, like premeditated or not premeditated. Even the second degree charges say, either with intent or without. So there's a lot of leeway here for an actual guilty conviction of one level or another. It's not going to be all or nothing. There's a little bit of coverage here on the state side to give the jury room to evaluate the law precisely and apply the law to what fits exactly based on the evidence that get presented. Because right now we don't know exactly what's going to hit the court. And that is very frustrating for me because it's still going on. Okay. This is our judge, Nancy Bidendorp. I hope I say it right. Nancy Bidendorp recently came forward and granted a change of venue. Adam Fravel and his defense team for many, many months had been large motions and outcries that the media and the coverage in the area was too much. There's no way that he could get a fair trial in Winona County. That everyone was prejudiced against him. And actually, the judge agreed, and it was pretty evident. I mean, even the family doesn't want to have to travel, but they even had to say that basically, in fairness, they don't want everything overturned anyway. So now they did get granted a change of venue, okay, and the trial will now be held in Blue Earth County, which is the building that's on the thumbnail for the courthouse. So the other thing is that we had a pretrial hearing just recently, okay, on September 3rd and 4th. We had 2 days of a pretrial hearings. And during that, we heard testimony from many of the family and friends in regards to the statements that Madeline Kingsbury had said to them, or they witnessed via personally on her or talked to her personally via text message, phone, FaceTime, like all kinds. There were quite a few. I think it was 8 family members. I mean, her father testified, her mother testified, her stepmother testified, her sister testified, and I think about 5 friends, okay, testified. Along with a friend that she knew that she was actually seeing at the Mayo Clinic. And that particular friend actually said that her last conversation with her was approximately March 8th, when she was at the Mayo Clinic, and they used to have personal talks about the relationship in person then, because Madeline had told her that he was going through all of her communication. So this particular friend wouldn't actually say anything, although they were, sending Instagram posts and chat back and forth on a semi-daily basis. They never talked anything personal until they were like 4 or 5 times a year. They were at the clinic together, and they would have these long discussions during her treatment. And they were both very open with each other. This friend was actually a previous abuse survivor, and knew a lot of people to refer her to, and they talked openly. And this was the one who actually testified that Madeline Kinsley told her, if anything ever happens to me, Adam did it. She was afraid. She talked to her about being afraid. And this testimony because it's face to face, and they didn't witness anything, they're trying to get it thrown out. Okay. The state brought a very good expert witness on why an abuse victim would talk casually to their friends about this but not do anything about it, and talk very bluntly about the situation and the frame of mind, and about the love between people, not wanting to be a failure, thinking you can change it, the embarrassment of it. Like, why, when pressed, like, where did you get that mark, she would cover something up and say it's nothing, don't worry about it, and not actually, when offered a place to stay or a way out, why she didn't jump on it. It was very good testimony. And I do have some links for you guys in regards to that. Anybody who likes to read transcripts, okay, um, here is day 1, and here is day 2 of that pretrial hearing in regards to this type of evidence that the judge still has not motioned on, did an order on yet. We're getting close to trial, and we still don't know if this kind of testimony is going to come in, who and what. Now, during that day, there were several witnesses that testified to actual events that they saw. Okay. And, it's going to get crazy. Let me just tell you. Okay. Um, 2 weeks, it's 2 weeks, before. Okay. And we've had 11 documents filed to try to keep stuff out. The defense has actually filed many of them. But the first one that they filed, and quite adamantly, was to prohibit the testimony of the expert witness, Melissa Skaya. She's a domestic violence and abuse expert. She previously she testified on day 2 in Fravel's pretrial hearing. But they don't want her to actually give the jury the information on why Madeline Kingsbury would not have filed police charges against him or left the home. They would rather have those facts stay out and not let the state present any evidence as to what Madeline may have been thinking. They say it's prohibitive. It's more probative than it's more prejudicial than probative, and it shouldn't be allowed. Um, Although this is where I have an issue. This is why I wanted to follow this case. I mean, this happens in violence cases against partners a lot. They want to silence the point of view of the victim because the victim's not there to speak for themselves. And so hearsay and expert witnesses, the hearsay rules are used quite cleverly. And it is their right as a defense, because it is on the books as a law and they can use it. But there are exceptions, and in Minnesota there are, in regards to, actually, because it was abuse, okay, because there was testimony given of things that were seen, that it could be added to. And so this is the fight that's going on back and forth between the state and the defense, and they're arguing back and forth. Now, the state, I'm gonna have to pull that one up to read from it, actually. Let's just go back there. Okay. Here are the motions that the defense has made recently. Okay. They want to, and when I tell you that this defense attorney, Zachary Bauer, is earning his money, he really is. He says that this case is so prejudicial against how Adam Fravel appears as a partner to Madeline, that she's coming off as an angel and he's coming off as a devil. He's doing everything he can to limit that perception here, because it is such a sensitive subject when you talk about someone who was so well loved and was so caring and like had so many friends and talking, and the thought of them being abused in any manner, mentally or physically, by a partner, and everybody kind of knows about it and talks about it. like behind the scenes, like she's in a difficult relationship, like things aren't going well for her and Adam, like, she's not happy. Like this bubbly, effervescent person, when you mention her partner's name or she starts talking about it, like, they talk about how she physically changed. She becomes sad. She looked down. She shut down. Um, they also talk about how she wasn't honest with them all the time, like when they pressed her for it, and that she would shut down the conversations and all. And this expert witness, Melissa Skaya, is talking that this is normal behavior. This is very commonly done. And it's that the jury needs further explanation as to why someone would stay. Basically, that's it. Why would you stay? If it was so bad, why would you stay? If all this was going on, why are you still there? Well, there are other things that he wants tossed out. He wants to limit the support of the attire of everybody who comes to watch the court, because although there will be no cameras, the state and the defense both argued against it, even though the media pressed hard to get it. The family came forward and gave information to the judge that they didn't want it either. They didn't want it either. They don't want Adam Fravel to be notarized in any way. They want justice for Maddie, yes, but they don't want, because of the way the defense is going against everything, they don't want Maddie to be besmirched in any way. And I don't blame them. And they just want no media. They don't want a media circus. Okay. But the defense actually doesn't want anyone to wear any attire of support in any way for Maddie. They don't want to see any signs. They don't want everybody wearing a color. They don't want no buttons that say justice for Matt. Nothing. They want the jury to see nothing. They want that courtroom as benign as they can. They also don't want Adam to have visible shackles to look like he's guilty, even though he is still in jail and he is charged with murder. And most defendants had to show up in shackles. They could wear regular clothes if petitioned. They also want to limit the amount of guards to give the impression that he's dangerous. They don't want anyone referring to any testimony as lying. No one can use the word lying. I kid you not. There's a whole motion. There's a whole motion. And these are public records now. They unsealed everything. It is in, I do believe I have listed the Minnesota case site there, and I do have a case number. You'll see it on some of the documents I'm giving you. You just search there and you can pull everything up. The way they word these things, it's hard to figure out what is what. But this motion was on the 23rd. So like there are like 10 motions there from the defense back and forth about this. This one is definitely there. And they don't want any of the witnesses referring to another witness lied, any contrary. And I guess, they don't want the word lying, even if the state does go. I guess it's because the state is presenting evidence that could impeach some of the statements on the defense side. Okay. They don't want the family and friends testimony to come in because they said it's too biased and prejudicial. They actually said nobody likes Adam Fravel. You can't just keep it, but nobody's saying that in their testimony, but it's obvious when their testimony is slanted because no one has anything positive to say about Adam Fravel. Now, the only one who said anything negative was the dad, who said that he never really cared for him because, she said they had 2 children out of wedlock. He wasn't helping to pay bills. Dad always had to help her with some money to get things taken care of. And daughter complained to him about him not pulling his weight. Dad had gone out of his way to have conversations with the father of the children about, when she first became pregnant, like, this is serious now. This is a lifelong commitment. You have to step up. There are things you need to take care of. He thought he would, and he didn't, from what he heard from his daughter and from what he witnessed. Okay. They're even saying Melissa Skya, because she's an expert in domestic abuse, is too prejudicial to use in this homicide case because it focuses on domestic abuse. I kid you not. Make that make sense. But they're right. It will appear to the jury that we're using a domestic abuse expert because domestic abuse was there. So I guess he's got a point. But the other thing is no excessive photos. Apparently, Law enforcement has photos. There's the crime scene investigation photos. There's the autopsy photos. They want to limit the amount of upsetting things that get shown to the jury. And this is all from the defense, not the state or the family, because it'll be prejudicial against, overly prejudicial against Adam. They don't want things repeated over and over and over again to hammer the message home. And they're worried about how it's going. They're really worried about perception here a lot. You could tell by the filings, right? I mean, fascinating how far this man is going. I mean, seriously, he's going really far. Okay. You can't use evidence which makes my violent client look like they're violent. Exactly, Liam. You know, they're doing their best to minimize how much the jury hears about that because they realize it is it's so prejudicial. But the physical evidence alone is pretty damning. You know, he was seen changing the actual license plates on her van and then driving her van away from the house and drove right by where the body was found. Now he says he was taking stuff to his parents, but his parents say he never showed up. He says he turned around because he realized he was supposed to take this stuff to the storage unit. Okay, but why did you change the license plate? What were you trying to hide? I mean, he made moves that he was trying to hide stuff. I'd be trying to get that tossed out. But basically, it's perception. They actually feel the defense is really trying to remove any of this prejudice, like the jury trying to get the notion that he may have been an abuser. Like they definitely want that out. But there's a lot that they're not going to be able to get out. The eyewitness testimony when they were on FaceTime and he struck her, they're not going to be able to get that out. They're not because somebody saw it. Okay. Somebody saw it and it's eyewitness testimony. And there's two incidences of that are being reported. That because Maddie often would have the phone in her hand and one child, and the other thing is very prejudicial because he struck her while she was holding the child. You know, there is a testimony from one of the friends that he backhand slapped her walking into the kitchen because he said the house was dirty and she said, well, I don't get any help. And you know, he backhanded her while holding a baby. The phone went flying, but they saw it all, and this person yelled at him. But again, Maddie would not let that person call the police. Okay. But they want no excess photos or anything, you know, they don't want it hammered home. This is the part that really got to me. Spark of life limitations. Now spark of life is the way that the prosecution will present who Maddie was while she was alive. And that so they want those to be limited and to try to rein them in so that it's not so like wow this exuberant lovely person that everybody loves is no longer with us and he might have had something to do with it. They think that that's overly prejudicial. Now spark of life is the right of the prosecution. They are here for justice for the this is the part that gets me. This guy's going so far as if like I know he's doing his job as a defense attorney. He's doing a damn good job for Adam Fravel. Clever is Fox. And the word barracuda comes to mind because the way he's just going down the list at any little thing that could be prejudicial to Adam Fravel after dealing a year with the onslaught of him still living in Winona County. And like people just don't, they're all pretty much under the assumption that he did it. Nobody even wants to hear that he didn't. And I'm just talking about the residents in the area, the family, the friends. Nobody's batting an eye that he didn't do it. Matter of fact, they all feel guilty. They didn't do more to prevent it. They have regret. They should have filed complaint anyway. Some of them were like, but I was so worried about her and her children. Like, if I did go against her wishes and she was still there and he got upset about it, then I would have been the cause of this. So they're wrestling with themselves between the causing this to happen and then like sooner or like not preventing it from happening at all, because they couldn't convince her to leave. and many tried. And that's why the prosecution wants to bring this defense witness, this state witness, expert witness, to say why would she do that? Okay, and we know that in these cases, those kind of experts are often allowed in this. Like, but it just was, to me. I understand why he wants to limit it, but it was so offensive, and it's really infuriating family and friends. Like, in it's a good, all I can say is it's a good thing the jury doesn't get to see these motions, like, because they would definitely think that, wow, you must think your client's guilty if you want nobody to even look at him sideways. Like, how about presenting us some evidence about how he didn't do it? Like, instead of trying to get rid of every possible, and which I know is their job. I mean, that's how it works, right? And mm, mm. Yeah, evidence of being a deadbeat dad isn't evidence of murder. Exactly, it's not, but they don't want the father's testimony about that to sway the jury that he wasn't a good guy. I mean, it's not evidence of murder and it should be in there, but they're trying to say that everybody hates him so they shouldn't testify, which is the gist, you know? Um Yeah, this is not good for the defense, I don't think. Also, one good thing though, jury limitations exposure to the case. One thing that the defense put forward in the suggested jury questionnaire, they want to make sure that no one that sits on the jury was part of the search team. No one was involved in looking with it for her, that they don't know, they want to just try to limit who knew her or loved her or knew about this big case in the beginning, which is why they had it moved to Blue Earth. In That is absolutely a good reason. It was such a media frenzy. It was such a heartbreaking case to even hear about. A young mother, 26 years old, two children, drops off her children at daycare and is never seen again. I mean, it touched a lot of people. A lot of people were checking, a lot of people were following it. um I understand why they would move it to another county, and it's right that they should. But even that jury pool will have to go through a battery of questions. And a lot of it's going to be about if they've heard anything, and that's not unusual. That happens all the time. So during voir dire, they'll be asked straight out, "Were you part of the hundreds of people who searched for Madeline Kingsbury?" And if they are, they will probably be excluded as prejudicial. So I'm hoping they'll be able to seat a jury. Well, this judge has allowed a week for jury selection, knowing it's going to be contentious after seeing the filings back and forth. She allowed a full week. Okay. In Yep. Exactly. You know what? I agree with this too, Juju. I don't think that defendants should be shackled in front of the jury. That is why they don't wear arm shackles. Sometimes they only wear leg shackles, but it depends on the crime too. When there's been multiple murders or violence and things like that involved, they actually will keep them shackled. It's just for the safety. They have to balance the safety of the public. We have had. I mean, look at those female defendants who actually attacked people in the jury room. We have seen people get attacked in the court, and they have to keep the attorneys, the witnesses, the jury, the judge, the galley. They have to keep everybody safe. In murder, involves taking someone's life, which means you don't thinking the same as you or I, if you can do that at the time. In this particular murder case, isn't like he's not being, the defense isn't like he was having a moment and it was self-defense or he was out of his mind or anything. It's just not guilty. Like, yeah, go ahead and prove it. Okay. um no physical evidence to tie him to the body. We're going to have to hear about that with the medical examiner. That I can't even talk to you about because we don't have that yet. Okay. You can't use evidence which makes my violent client look like they're violent. Exactly. Like, don't make me look like an abuser, That's basically what they want to do. Okay. But here's the thing I want to talk to you about. Like, this is going to be one hell of a trial, and there will be no cameras. Okay. But we've got over 180 witnesses that are going to testify in this trial. Okay. 157 of those individuals belong to the state. They include both Fravel's and Madeline Kingsbury's family and friends, 38 employees of the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, and 30 members of Winona law enforcement. Okay, the defense has a bit less, just quite a bit less. Okay, the types of um the types of exhibits are going to be video, body cam footage, interviews, etc. I have for you that want to list. I mean, the exhibit types are not that different, and when you look at the lists, they're really pretty much the same as regards to And I'm going to give you okay. One thing I have for you guys because you may not. Oh, because you may not remember the whole layout of the complaint. I'm going to give you the complaint. I gave you the transcript already for day 1 and day 2 so you can see the testimony that they're trying to get rid of, or basically what it's going to be about. Okay. But the next thing that well, and then for those of you that like this kind of stuff, here's the the defense exhibit list and their witness list. Because I know sometimes you guys ask me for that. And then here comes the big state witness and exhibit list combined. Okay, so you can see the types of things that they're going to be bringing forward. But basically, it's nothing out of the ordinary. No big surprises there. Um, but basically, the other thing that I want to read to you. Where is it? Mm. Oh, here. Where's my downloads? I want to read to you why on the hearsay arguments. And this is one of the reasons that I put the trigger warning there, because some of this is a little rough. I mean, some of this is a little rough, I'll admit. All right. I'm going to end that. Okay. Put this back to here. All right. Now, the reason that the state is going to go back and forth, and they're arguing that the pretrial testimony and evidence pertaining to the defendant's prior instances of domestic conduct is admissible under Minnesota statute, and they give the statute and everything. And then they're going to start pointing to particular evidences because the because the state the defense is actually picking on certain parts of it. Okay, and this was and I could go back, and I'll give you guys this one too. This should be a shareable link. Somebody test this link for me. If it goes through that way, it should be. All right. Well, they're going to go through, there's a lot here, and they're going to go into the particular laws and everything. But basically, they're going to say these are the particular points that prove why it should come in, and the particular reasons. Okay, sometime within the first 6 months of birth of Madeline Kingsbury's daughter, in March of 2018, Holly Stamshire, who's a friend, observed bruising on Madeline Kingsbury while they were in the kitchen of Madeline Kingsbury and Adam Fravel's residence in La Crescent, Minnesota. Madeline was trying to feed her daughter when her hair was brushed back. Holly observed discoloration on her neck. Holly described it as one mark on one side of Madeline's neck and a larger mark on the other side of Madeline's neck. The mark was more pink or red with a little purple bruising underneath. When Holly asked her about it, Madeline said that the bruising happened while being intimate with Adam and things got out of hand. Holly joked that Holly did not think Madeline was into that kind of stuff, and Madeline laughed it off and said neither did she. Okay. Kind of just saying, thank you, Juju. Okay. That was one incident. And that they want that one tossed out, but actually that one, if it stays in, could actually be for the defense. What do you guys think? Because if that one stays in and they say that, well, you all are saying that that had to be Adam abusing her, but here is words from Madeline saying that was during intimacy and, it's no big deal. But there's only one of those incidences, but they want that one tossed. In December of 2020, during the FaceTime conversation, Haley Scott, another friend of hers, observed Madeline Kingsbury holding her daughter and making dinner in the kitchen of her Winona residence. Haley Scott heard Adam Fravel in the background. What the hell is this house? Such a effing mess. Holly Scott observed Fravel walk in the kitchen. Madeline Kingsbury turned and responded, maybe if I had some effing help, it would not be such a mess. Haley Scott then observed Fravel slap Madeline in the face with the back of his hand. Haley Scott and Madeline Kingsbury discussed the incident the next day through a FaceTime conversation. During the conversation, Madeline stated that it did not happen often. Okay. So, like, what the prosecution's trying to do here in their thing is to say, why are you trying to get all this out? There's stuff here, like, we have to actually put all of this through, because if we only put one or two in, she says it didn't happen often, but she reported multiple events to different people, and different people saw different things, which is why we have so many people coming forward, and why it's important not to eliminate any of the testimony, that it's not them. The prosecution is trying to lay the case out for the judge that, no, we're not being overly aggressive here and repeating the same thing over and over. These are separate incidences with separate explanations and different stories that she told different people. They show her state of mind. She was defending him all the time. One of the reasons she didn't want anybody to file a police report is she said, I want nothing there against Adam to hurt him. He's the father of my children. I just want to be out of the relationship. So she was trying to find a way out of the relationship, keep the relationship or her children in her father intact, not be too aggressive with him, because she said if she was too aggressive, she felt perhaps he would take the children and make it more difficult for her. I mean, he had family too that could help. She did not want it to become more aggressive to her. She was afraid she would be hurt. She would be afraid she would be denied access to her children. She didn't want the contention. She was trying to find a way that she could remove herself from the situation without upsetting him too much. Okay. On September 21st, 2021, Adam Fravel put his hands on Madeline Kingsbury's throat, applied pressure, pushed her down on a couch, and stated words to the effect that if she didn't mind, that she would end up like Gabby Petito. This is one incident that was so upsetting to her Her father immediately came and picked her up. He's an hour and a half away. She called them. She was hysterical. Everyone she talked to that morning said they'd never heard her so hysterical. This was the first time he did something in front of the oldest child. And it was also so upsetting for her and so violent that she was telling people. Although when they finally got to her and she was calmed down, she wouldn't press charges. But she did leave the home for 3 days and go and live with the father. Took the children. They went back to the house, got some clothes, and went and lived there for 3 days. But through communication with Adam again, she went back home. During a FaceTime conversation with Madeline Kingsbury in 2021 or 2022, Lauren DeVos, another friend, observed Madeline Kingsbury cooking dinner in the kitchen. And during the conversation, Adam entered the kitchen and wanted to know why the house was not clean and dinner was not done. Lauren DeVos heard Adam cursing in the background. When Madeline responded, "I'm working on it," Lauren DeVos observed Adam Fravel shove Madeline Kingsbury into the refrigerator. In a subsequent conversation about the incident a few days later, Madeline Kingsbury stated that it was getting worse over time. Madeline Kingsbury told Lauren DeVos that Adam Fravel would push her, shove her, and choke her on multiple occasions. Madeline Kingsbury said this happened in front of the children. What the state is trying to lay out is there was a pattern here and it was getting worse, and it goes to state of mind and it goes to motive, and it also goes to him having access to her, him having the ability, and would he do it, even though there is other testimony that Madeline had told her father he would never do anything like that to me. Okay. So it goes on, and they list every part of the testimony that shows that it could go both ways. And I think what the state is trying to show here is to the judge is that it's up to a jury to determine. You can't eliminate this. When I read this is the victim's voice. Why can't it be in court? This is part of her justice. It's up to the jury whether they believe it or not. If they believe that the friends are all citing and stuff like this, but they have no evidence that there's any coercion or anything like that. And she told a little bit differently to everybody, all these different stories, and they are all repeating them different. It's not the same story over and over again. Although the one about choking to the ground, in referring to the Gabby Petito case, she told many of her friends about it. Okay, the defense is bringing forward that maybe she's not credible because she did start a relationship with another gentleman, and that during her breaks from Adam Fravel, she was seeing another person. That maybe she wasn't as honest as everybody says. And I think that's where the lying thing comes in, because if they try to go that avenue, the state can go the other way about Adam and Adam's family. Saying one thing and then doing another. And there's quite a bit of testimony back and forth there that is contradictory also. So I found it quite odd, actually, that the defense came forward with that lying, and they actually used the word lying in the motion. It's astounding to me. There's also testimony about her in summer wearing turtlenecks and leggings, and when questioned about it, not really coming up with a good answer. Seeing marks on her neck, and if anybody noticed, she would just turn red and just cover up. One friend said that once she mentioned a marks on her neck, that Madeline would only wear sweaters when she was talking to her, and was always keeping her hair in front of her neck, and was very careful on how she looked on camera. Then she didn't want to talk about it. She didn't want to be pressed. If you did say something, she kind of, sometimes she told them what happened. Sometimes she didn't. She was obviously embarrassed about the situation that she was in not really knowing the answer on how to handle it. In this particular expert witness, Melissa Skaya actually had very good information for the judge in regards to that, that is very common and it's a process and it has to be done. Everybody goes through it individually a different way, but it's very extremely common, much too common. In because of the fear of retaliation, because of embarrassment, because of being judged for being the victim, that there must be something wrong with her if that happened. Why would he do this to me? It was pretty good about the whole mindset, and I can understand why the defense doesn't want it in there. But anyway, it goes on for quite a number, quite a number of pages. Now, in fairness, we will bring up I will bring up the defense too. Now, the defense is basically their argument, and I'm just going to read the headings on their arguments because I think it pretty well goes over exactly where their mindset is right now in regards to this. Okay, so they're going to go against plaintiffs to support of what they're calling all this hearsay is relationship evidence. Okay, and they're going to say, mm, let me just make this big enough for you guys to see. The state of Minnesota has failed to show that Madeline's out of court statements are admissible. Now, they're going to go back and forth about that same regulation, that residential hearsay exception, which allows out of court statements not otherwise admissible to come into the district court, determines that the statements have circumstantial guarantees of trustworthiness, seen in Rule 803 and 804. The district court must also determine that the statements are offered as evidence of material fact. The statements are more probative in establishing the material fact than any other piece of evidence admitted or reasonably procurable. And the general purpose of the rules of evidence and interest of justice will be served by admission of the statements. They're trying to say that you're just trying to slander my client. The defendant is being slandered here. Even though there is evidence of people seeing marks on her neck, there is evidence of her actually telling people that these things were happening. We have eyewitnesses that saw him do two physical things to her. But they're saying that's not enough. They're not saying they're saying that's not enough. They're saying that she could easily, because she actually was not telling everyone about this man she was seeing. She told some, she didn't tell others. She saw him in 2022, but she didn't really tell everybody about it until 2023. They're trying to say that they're casting doubt on her trustworthiness as honest statements. And the state's trying to present otherwise by asking during those transcripts, you will see every witness ask, how do you feel about Madeline Kingsbury's trustworthiness? What kind of person was she? And then they come straight out and say, like, she had no reason to lie about anything. She would be honest. And when they were pressed on why didn't she tell you about this or why didn't she tell you about that? I said, well, we did have intimate conversations about stuff, but she didn't tell me every single detail, and that's okay. And we all know that's how friends are. Like, I do not call up my best friend and tell them what I had for breakfast every day. And I think if I'm in a relationship, they know some stuff, but they don't know it all. Like, if I need to talk about something, and I think you guys can relate to that, right? I mean, both the defense is pushing hard on, does it meet the statute? Like, look at this judge legally. Is there enough here? Is there enough here? Or is it going to be more damaging to my client? Now, it is damaging to your client. Your client laid hands on this woman, and people know about it, and you don't want anybody to say it. So I do personally think that some of it's going to come in and some of it's going to get tossed out. I think that the eyewitness accounts will stay in. I think the father coming to pick her up can stay in, because they say, why did you have to come pick her up and why did she come stay at your house? And he's going to have to say, this is what she told me. I think that's going to stay in. I think that then that part will stay into every person that she told her about. And we're talking about when he choked her, threw her down, and made the Gabby Petito reference. because she repeated it so many times to so many people. I think that one's going to stay in. In making its argument that Madeline's statements to others have circumstantial guarantees of trustworthiness, the state relies on case law involving facts and factors that do not support its case for Madeline's statements having circumstantial guarantees. And they're saying there's no physical evidence to guarantee the trustworthiness of the statement. It's just they're using everything that they can. I'm sorry if I'm making you dizzy doing this, but I want to get to the next. This is a bunch of the case law that supports it. There are plenty of cases where the victim's voice is tossed. It was actually heart-wrenching for me to see how often it is that no matter what you have told someone was going on, without physical evidence of it, or you actually taking the steps to document it accordingly, it was not allowed. So, lesson, maybe if we have anyone we know that is in these situations and there is help and advice out there, there is plenty of domestic abuse advocates out there that will advise on procedure and safety and all things to do. It is a personal decision. Well, there are options. There are options. And I guess I'm going to be keeping that in mind if anyone ever talks to me about it, because just them saying stuff to other people, it could get tossed. And if anything happens to you, there won't be justice, you know? In making its argument that Madeline's statements to others have circumstantial guarantees of trustworthiness, the state relies on mischaracterizations of the purpose of its own expert witness, Melissa Skaya. They're saying the state purports that the common characteristics associated with victims of domestic violence is a concept synonymous with the scientifically accepted battered woman syndrome. In other words, they're saying, well, wait a minute. We don't think you can go that far. Okay. Because they know that there's actual law to support allowing that to come in. Okay. So they're trying to get that tossed that there's nothing that says that she was suffering from battered spouse syndrome. Okay. It stands to reason that if such expert testimony as to battered woman syndrome may help a jury to understand the behavior of victims of domestic violence in evaluating the credibility of a victim of domestic violence, it should likewise be taken into account by this court in understanding the behavior of Madeline Kingsbury when evaluating her overall credibility and the trustworthiness of her statements regarding her strained relationship with the defendant in instances of domestic violence. They're going to say, listen, you can't bring forward the trustworthiness. That's a jury decision on whether they believe it or not. There's no way to prove that she lied about anything or that it wasn't true anymore by the defense or the state, is my point. Okay, by the defense or the state. How is that fair to take her trustworthiness into account but not give anybody the ability to prove it? I think the defense is pushing very hard on this because if you have multiple friends and family going to come forward with the information about this contentious relationship and that it was getting physical and worse, that does prove a little bit more to trustworthiness. I mean, you can she never really lied about anything. She just didn't say. How is that untrustworthiness? I mean, and can you see why this case is getting under my skin? Just like a little bit, a little bit. Okay, so let me go. I'm going to be ending this soon because there's not really much else information that I can give you. The defense exhibit second link and the state witness fourth link and this link left are closed. Are they? Okay. I will the defense link is closed off. Okay. You mean the state witness link and they're closed off? They shouldn't be shareable, but I'll double check. Uh, uh mm. Okay. I can't believe that they're closed off. They were all renamed. Okay. You know what? I'll pop them at the end of the feed. Thank you, Shill. I appreciate that. Whoops. I removed it. I hit the wrong button. Sorry, guys. I'm going button crazy here. Well, thank you for the information there, Shill. Okay. Hi, Mousy. It feels like a little treat when Claire posts a link in chat, does it? I just hope that they were working. Like I don't know why they're not. That's what's bothering me. But I will because I did make them shareable, but I'm gonna put them again. Oh, you can request access. Is all right. Oh, Shill, the ones that you're saying weren't good, can they request access at least? Because I'll just approve it all, but I'm still gonna redo the links at the end for everybody. Mm. It's hard because I can't test a shareable link because it's my link. So of course it's gonna come up. Okay, that's a problem with vilifying single mothers and fathers, that it makes people think they have no choice but to include the other person, regardless of how they may not actually be good for the kids. Yeah, that's the thing. Here in I will say this for Adam Fravel. No one said that he ever was anything but good with the kids. Until he was doing stuff in front of the kids to Madeline. That, of course, is horrible. Absolutely horrible. And a main concern of Madeline's. And is the reason that she moved towards complete separation from him in 2023. She had told him that it was over, and she told him that was the reason. Um, but the father testified he was good with the kids. He wasn't good with relationships with other people. He spent a lot of time when he was visiting with family, off on his own. But it was COVID at the time, and he used that as a reason why he didn't want to be with anybody. He didn't talk to them. He talked very little. Um, the stepmother said he was very helpful if asked to like move something or help, like that. He never turned anybody down, but he wasn't very forthcoming. He was pretty standoffish on his own. Madeline was telling everyone he checked everywhere he went and what she did. She was really did in her conversations, from what I read in the testimonies, from the transcripts on day 1 and 2, it did appear that she very much was in a relationship that she was not being very forthcoming on the day-to-day activities of it. Here and there, she talked about it, but when pressed, she was uncomfortable. And she was visibly uncomfortable, as was testified to by several of her friends. She would end calls immediately if you talked about it. She would say, "I'm working on it. Like, let's not go into it." She would push them away from the conversation. People were offering her places to stay, help of everything. They seemed very aware that something was going on. But Madeline was not taking the steps, or she told them she was taking the steps, but things were going slow. They were going slow. And that doesn't look good for Adam, but it's going to depend on if the testimony actually gets in. I am The vilifying of the victim here is what is starting to really get under my skin. I understand the defense doesn't want to have all this extra testimony on top of testimony on top. Like, don't hammer it home so bad that it's like his, whatever. They want to see both sides, but I think they're having problems coming up witnesses that will testify against Madeline. Because if they had the opposite to say, that it was contentious on both sides, it would go a little bit better. It's okay not to have someone who isn't a good parent not be a parent. This is true. This is true. Well, she wanted her children to have their father. I think that is why the prosecution witness is so big. Rebuttals. It is. It's huge. It is huge. Although they have said that they will, like, probably, here was the statement from the prosecution. As we continue to prepare for trial, it is likely that the witness list, while still extensive, will be significantly reduced. That's what the state said in a court document that they filed today. A judicial determination was filed by the judge, stating that The opposing party and the court must be notified of any witnesses or exhibits that were not previously listed. In other words, this is the list. You can't bring on anything else without notification. Although the state is saying, I've listed everything that could possibly come up, I may not bring all of this into the trial. But I will tell you that that trial is from October 7th to November 1st. It's long. It's 3 weeks long. First week, more than 3 weeks. In the first full week is dedicated to jury. Okay. So let's see. We went over all of those documents that the defense filed against Melissa Skaya being an expert witness, courtroom decorum, prohibiting spectators and witnesses from wearing any display of support for Kingsbury or their family or her family. And then the one about the photographs, the medical from the medical examiner and the law enforcement. We talked about physical restraints on Fravel and the appearance of too many guards. We also talked about jury selection process. Okay, now both sides get together and put those questionnaires up, and it was pretty extensive. Also, it really was. They it. I'm trying to see if I can pull that one up. Yes. Hold on. Okay. Oh, and I'm going to be able to reshare the other ones too. Here you go. Here is the proposed. This is not set in stone yet. Well, this is how extensive. 14 pages, the jury questionnaire. Okay. And when you get to the end, that's where they're going to be talking about the exposure to the case. Okay. And were they do you know any of the attorneys? Were you part of the search? Any of that? Anything to do with the case whatsoever or the legal system? Okay. Is that one the knowledge of the case? Maybe that's not the full one. Well, that was pretty extensive. Now the other one was hold on. You said the witness list? Okay. I'm going to have to go into the Fravel file for that one. You mean the defense or the show? Could you tell me, was it the defense or the other? I'll just do them all because that showed all. Open. Open. And where's the state now? State. Okay. All right. So take that down. Okay. Here's the defense exhibit list again, hopefully. Now, this says that it should be okay. Well, just check that one out again, somebody. I just want to make sure you don't have to. All right, and here's the defense witness list. It should be okay. And then here's the state. That was so. Oh, I see what happened on the state one. Okay. and the state is combined. And my typing stinks. Thank you, Liam. Thank you, Shil. Okay. Were those the only ones? The witness that did the complaint come through? I mean, um, I'm hoping it did because I think the arguments did. Yeah, the predict the one works. I'll have to check the others. Okay. Well, you all know how to reach me. And if you do have any questions in regards to any of the other links or any of the other information, like I said, the Minnesota records are open under criminal. You'll have to search by the case number. I will go back to the description below and put the case number next to the link for the Minnesota records. They have opened them up since there will be no cameras. We will be able to look at some of the stuff back and forth. We are waiting for the motion from an order from the judge in regards to what information is still going to come through and all of these other motions that were filed. Rather than, I will be doing more true crime during the week as it goes. We've got a hearing coming up Thursday, actually, for Sarah Boone and for Brian Koberger. I do have a personal matter that I have to take care of on Thursday, but I am hoping to actually live stream the pre-trial conference, status conference for Sarah Boone. I think since we're covering that trial, that some of you may want to talk and chat about that as we go. I'm hoping it will go okay. If we can't do it live, I will at least record it for you all, and we will be discussing it. But we are definitely covering that trial every day. Not the jury selection. You know how I feel about that. I ain't sitting around during jury selection. It just ain't happening. But the day we go to trial, we will be live with Sarah Boone. I hope you all can agree. This one is requesting access. Hold on. Which one is this? Okay. Hold on. Okay. I can give you that one right now. Um, hold on. Here you go, Shill. Whatever. That one was the state's hearsay memorandum. And that should be good now. Okay, thank you for that. All right. So we're gonna go, like I said, live with Boone. It's gonna be next week. We probably won't be doing, we'll be doing shorter true crime. You know, when I do a live trial, I don't get a lot else done during the week. Because we are sitting and discussing stuff, but we can discuss other cases during the breaks if you choose, like for those of you that are in the live chat, but I hope to see some of you here. Okay. And there are some other things going on with quite a few of the other cases. It's still, then just ask for access. Chill. I don't know what's going on with the Google thing there because it does say anyone with a link. So I'm not sure. Um, I don't know if that's your browser or what, but just put it through. I will check them all. And like I said, I will actually make a list on the description for them and try to get somebody to test the link for me. If it says requesting access, all you have to do is just do it with your email and then I just add it. Or I will send you back a link, or you could just wait till they hit the description. I mean, I don't want anybody to give you know, anybody to give links, to their email if they don't want to, because I'm not going to use it for anything, I could tell you. Yeah, and Liam gets us with the Tommy Wessero, for the bingo card. There you go. You did not. It does seem appropriate. I wish he hadn't. And Sean, you're right. Of course, she was afraid to move forward. This is something she didn't expect to happen. You know, um, she's trying to protect herself and the kids, and she doesn't know what to do. I mean, nobody expects to be in these kind of situations, correct? And we could totally understand it. So, uh, like I said, this one legally is really getting under my skin because I want to see where we go with this hearsay evidence. I understand the hearsay rules. I understand she's not here to speak for herself, but she did speak a lot, and some of it should be allowed in. To be honest, I don't see all of it coming in. In as a defense, I can't really blame the defense for coming forward and saying, "Hey, this looks way too prejudicial," because there is a lot of it. And when you're looking at 180 witnesses, 147 from the state, you've got to be concerned about perception with the jury. Yeah? I mean, honestly, I think the defense is on the right track as far as earning their dollars in defending Adam Fravel to the best of their ability. Um, they're pulling it all out. And I want to see what kind of precedent gets set here. I can't believe that they would deny an expert witness to talk about the mindset of the victim and why she would have been talking so much and not doing something. I think that's relevant. I don't know how you guys think, but man, mm, you know, I know that turtlenecks are very fashionable, Liam, but not when it's warm weather. That was very suspicious that she was wearing bulky clothing during warm weather and especially turtlenecks in the summer. When this woman would tell her family all the time she liked the cool weather and she hated to be hot. Hated to be hot. Okay. I do think you're right there, Liam, about the prosecution list being so long because of rebuttal and because of mindset and trying to get that she was actually talking about it. Uh, and it should be able to come in. I know that those eyewitness ones will more than likely come in unless they can discredit the witness some other way. Yep. It is a double-edged sword, Sean. Yeah, I do agree. No one knows what to do. And you know what? Even all sitting here, not being in this situation, none of us, we all think we know what we would do in such a situation. But until you're actually in it, right? How do you know? It's like the whole thing is just so upsetting and so twisting of the mind. It's hard for me to judge someone in Madeline Kingsbury's position with small children to it's hard for me to judge why she didn't press charges or why she didn't just get up and leave. She was given the opportunity more than once. But like we're not talking about like we have seen worse cases where someone gets like beat to a pulp and they still go back too. In this case, like she's talking about an incident here and there. They were talking multiple years, but it wasn't an everyday event. It didn't happen all the time. She has said so to several people. That could have contributed to her thinking that, well, it's going to get better. Mhm. You know, and also she had financial concerns of keeping the home that they lived in together. That she was responsible for most of the bills and then trying to find another place. She thought that if she left, that he would not pay the bills and that she would have some marks against her as regard to the rental in her credit and things like that. Mm. Okay, I think on that, if you guys don't have any more questions, I think I'm going to call it. But in the beginning, I gave the playlist. The playlist is also in the description for what we talked about the first time. I will make sure that the rest of the links get updated, or at least the site gets updated with the actual case number for you to find it. The witness list, the defense list, and actually the last two motions, pro and con about the hearsay, I will put those links there. Do you guys want the complaint? I mean, maybe we should put the complaint there. I'll just make it all five, six of them, just to make sure. But I'm always available for questions. So please like, share, and don't forget to call me if I want to hear it. I like to. try to answer as many questions as I can when this stuff comes up, but it's impossible for me to cover everything on every single one of them. But I do want to address things and have good topics for you. And if there's things that you want researched or that you feel we have to expand upon, I want to hear from it. You probably hear about the judge's orders on the community tab in regards to this, or it may be part of another short episode we do during the week. Depends on what happened. But otherwise, I do not think I'm going to be on tomorrow night. I don't know yet. It depends on how much I get ready because I am planning on being on earlier on Thursday in regards to the Sarah Boone uh, pre-trial conference, status conference. I think that's going to be important for us all to get ready for trial. And again, this case, Madeline Kingsbury, the state of Minnesota versus Adam Fravel defendant, is going forward on October 7th and should go through November 1st. And we'll keep you updated as it goes. On that, I hope you all have a very good night. And oh my gosh, I did forget the banner the whole damn time. Oh well. Next show's another day to do it right. See you all later. Have a good one.